Despite the cold November rain sliding down my kitchen window, the first thing I did that morning was smile at the photo of Eleanor on the mantel. 10 years since she passed, and I still started every day the same way. At that moment, I didn't understand why my hands were trembling as I reached for my mug of coffee. But I was about to uncover a truth that would destroy everything I thought I knew about loyalty, love, and family. My name is Edward Collins, though most people just call me Ed. I'm 71 years old, a retired civil engineer for Victoria, British Columbia. Eleanor and I couldn't have children, but when my younger brother and his wife died in a car crash, we raised their son Lucas like our own. He was only 11. He called Eleanor Mom before his teenage years ended. That morning began like any other. I was whisking eggs when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me said, "Pick up." "Mr. Collins, this is Sophie Leong from the Canadian Revenue Bureau. We need to speak with you about irregularities in your financial accounts." "It's urgent." My stomach twisted. I'd always been careful with finances. Eleanor used to joke that my tax spreadsheets were neater than our wedding album. "There must be some mistake," I said. "My nephew handles all that. Lucas Turner. He's my financial consultant." There was a pause. Long, uneasy. "Mr. Collins, that's exactly why we're calling. You should come to our office immediately. And, sir, I recommend you bring legal representation." The eggs burned on the stove as I stood there, phone clutched in my shaking hand, feeling the first tremor of something I didn't yet understand. Eleanor died in 2015, pancreatic cancer. 7 months from diagnosis to silence. The final 2 months were brutal. I barely slept, barely spoke. I watched her fade, day by day, until there was nothing left but her wedding band in my palm and a house that suddenly felt 100 rooms too big. Lucas was my lifeline. He arranged the funeral, handled the estate, dealt with the endless forms that come after death. When I broke down at the cemetery, he held me like a son would. "Uncle Ed," he said softly, "you don't need to face this alone. Let me take care of things." A week later, he came to the house with folders and calm confidence. "I've been looking over your finances. You got around $2.7 million in combined savings, investments, and property. That's good, but it's scattered. Let me consolidate and manage it properly. You can relax, live your life. I'll make sure it grows." It sounded sensible. Lucas was a certified wealth manager, 36 years old, sharp as a blade. He'd built his own advisory firm downtown. I trusted him completely. I signed the power of attorney. I gave him access to my accounts. "Thank you, Lucas," I said. "You're like the son I never had." "And you're like the father I never got to keep," he replied. I believed him. For almost 9 years, Lucas visited regularly. Always polite, professional, smiling. He'd bring coffee, chat about markets, show me reports that looked impressive, graphs going up, balances growing. "You're financially bulletproof, Uncle Ed," he'd grin. And Eleanor would be proud. I never questioned a thing. Why would I? My pension was enough for my modest lifestyle. I volunteered at the library, tutored engineering students, played cards with friends at the Legion every Thursday. Life was calm, predictable, safe, until that call. By afternoon, I was sitting in Sophie Liang's office, my lawyer Michael Rhodes beside me. Rain streaked down the tall windows behind her, and the fluorescent lights made the room feel colder than it was. "Mr. Collins," she said, "I'll be straightforward. You owe $520,000 in unpaid taxes and penalties. No returns were properly filed for the last 4 years." I blinked. "That's impossible. Lucas files my taxes every year." "He did file, but he declared your income as zero. Meanwhile, multiple large transfers were made from your investment accounts to private entities under his control, totaling approximately $2.1 million. The air left the room. Michael steadied my shoulder. "Are you saying he embezzled his uncle's retirement fund?" "That's our working theory," Sophie said grimly. "The RCMP Financial Crimes Division is investigating. Detective Ava Shaw will contact you." I left that office feeling as if the ground itself had been stolen from under me. Every step felt hollow, every breath heavier. Detective Shaw called me the next morning. Her voice was calm, deliberate, the kind you don't forget. "Mr. Collins, I need to meet with you. There are developments you should be aware of." When she arrived, she laid out photographs. Lucas and his associate Ethan Wong, smiling beside a gleaming waterfront property in Kelowna. Price tag, $3.5 million. Paid in cash. Did your nephew ever mention this property? No. He told me he lived in a downtown condo. He's been transferring funds through shell corporations since 2021, she said quietly. Mr. Collins, this goes deeper than fraud. Then she hesitated, flipping through another folder. We've also reopened your wife's medical file. There are anomalies in her toxicology report. We believe her decline may have been accelerated intentionally. I stared at her, unable to speak. Were you saying? We suspect your nephew may have administered medication beyond prescribed limits during her treatment. We're running tests to confirm. The world tilted. I heard the rain outside, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint hum of the fridge, but it all felt distant, unreal. Could the boy I raised, the boy Eleanor loved like her own, have murdered her? When I finally found my voice, I told Detective Shaw about our family cabin near Sook. Lucas had promised to renovate and sell it years ago. That's where they found him and Ethan, hiding, surrounded by documents, cash, and burner phones. Arrested without resistance. I watched the footage later, Lucas looking calm, almost bored as the officers handcuffed him. Not a flicker of remorse. The trial dragged on for nearly a year. Every day felt like walking through a fog of disbelief. Ethan Wong took a plea deal and testified against Lucas. He said she was dying anyway. Ethan told the court. He just wanted to speed things up and cash in the insurance. Then he planned to take over all your accounts. He said Uncle Ed would never know. When those words echoed through the courtroom, I felt something inside me break. It wasn't anger. It was grief, raw and endless. The prosecutor displayed financial statements, forged documents, and lab reports confirming lethal levels of morphine administered during Eleanor's final weeks. Lucas sat there, expressionless. When asked to speak before sentencing, he looked at me for the first time in months. You chose her over me, Uncle Ed, he said quietly. Everything I did to finally have something of my own. The judge's voice thundered through the courtroom. Lucas Turner, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment, with no parole eligibility for 18 years. Ethan received 11 years. The verdict brought justice, but no peace. Of everything Eleanor and I built, I recovered $480,000. The rest vanished into offshore accounts we may never trace. I sold the house we shared, too heavy with memories, and moved into a smaller place near the harbor. My life became quiet again, but not in the same way. Some nights, I still wake up expecting to hear Eleanor humming in the kitchen. Some mornings, I almost pour 2 cups of coffee before I remember I'm alone. The betrayal left more than empty accounts. It left a silence that even the sea wind can't fill. Yet, there are moments of light. Every Sunday, I walk to the pier and watch the sunrise. The sky burns gold over the Pacific, and I take out my phone. The lock screen, still her smile, captured on a warm summer morning in 2014. Sometimes people ask me why I still keep that photo on display. My answer never changes. Because that love, our love, was real. And no betrayal, no crime, no darkness can erase that. Last month, I received a letter from Lucas. Handwritten, neat, cold. Unravels. I've had a lot of time to think. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know, I didn't plan to hurt her at first. It started with resentment, then greed. Then it was too late. I hope you find peace someday. Lucas. I didn't write back. Instead, I drove to the cemetery. I placed the letter beneath Eleanor's headstone, next to a fresh bouquet of lilies, and whispered, "He'll never take another piece of us again." Then I stood there in the cold wind, knowing forgiveness wasn't something I owed, but peace was something I could still find. Because life, no matter how cruel, still offers second chances to rebuild. Not in wealth, but in truth. And maybe that's what Eleanor would have wanted. If you've ever trusted someone with everything you had, your money, your heart, your future, remember this story. Never sign blind. Never ignore your instincts. Love doesn't mean surrendering your judgment. because sometimes the hands you lift in trust can be the ones that push you into the dark. Subscribe for more true inspired stories about love, betrayal, and justice. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might just save you from the same fate. And remember, trust carefully, love fiercely, protect yourself always.